Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am your host, Courtney Anderson. Today we have a show from our series, Management Magicians. Dealing with difficult people, easy. Here's how. So, our series, Management Magicians, is all about management. And for those of us who love management, who are passionate and excited about it, who are supporters or admirers or even practitioners, for those of us who practice in management, we know that it can be magical. And I say that, and sometimes people think that I'm being completely facetious, and I'm not. It really can. The ability to get stuff done, which is the goal of an organization, and to marshal other people who have their own universe. Every single individual has their own universe of needs, desires, wants, joy, pain, sensitivities. They all come with that. So to be able to take each little universe and be able to unify multiple people pulling in the same direction to get stuff done, to surpass their individual and collective goals, it really is magic. And there's nothing to me more exciting than the ability to share an experience. So managers who are able to take resources, manage time, and other people and come out on the other side where they've achieved and surpassed their goals, and that's a shared experience where the manager, the people on the team, even maybe a vendor or a client, they're all part of this experience of sharing in the win, right? You got stuff done, you exceeded your expectations and your goals, and we shared this. It really is it's a wonderful emotional, psychological opportunity, and it really can be magic. And there's an art to it. There's a science to it, and there's a lot of what I do when I wear my hat as a business professor in MBA faculty is I look at the science. There's a lot of data and analysis that we are going to utilize as managers, but there's also an art to it. And that's the part where you need somebody who themselves has that sort of deft touch. They themselves are able to take the data, take the content, and convey it, communicate it in a way that's personal. And that's what makes it magic. So here we are. And, of course, in this episode, we are dealing with sort of one of the tried and true staples of corporate education or corporate training programs. And I've had the honor of going to so many different types of organizations, large and small, and public sector, private sector, and all over the world, helping them surpass their goals. And this is one of the most popular and historical, issues that people need help with, or they think they need help with, and dealing with difficult people. So I knew we had to do a show on it because it's just one of these issues that people who are not management magicians, sometimes it's an obstacle to getting stuff done. It's an obstacle to surpassing your goals or even meeting your goals. And it's because people don't fully comprehend how the beauty of diversity should be approached to ensure that we don't have a situation where someone is, quote, difficult, but instead we have situations full of vibrant, multifaceted, interesting, original, and unique people pulling together in the same direction to get stuff done. How do we do that? So I shared in the show notes that, there are myths and missteps that non-magicians, people who are in a management position, they are not management magicians. They're not getting this heightened level of accomplishment, achievement, and outcome. They're unfortunately not either where they aspire to be or where they could be in terms of their management practice. And some of the myths that they have really reinforce, the stereotypes and the problems perceived around this idea of, quote, difficult people. Okay. So some of them are the idea that people who work together, we should all like each other. Like people who work together, the myth and the idea is that we should be similar to what a social group is. A social group, whether you're a young person, sometimes they have organized social groups when you're a young person, a scouting club or a young people's group. And then sometimes they're informal. You just meet people that are, in your class, and you sit together at lunch and you ride together on the school bus and sit together. Sometimes you save each other a seat. These are all clues that we like each other. We hang out. When I was a young person, we might, hang out after school with each other. Sometimes we talk on the phone. I assume young people today might text message or be on social media with each other. They like each other. Again, sometimes the liking or the feeling that you like somebody is just imposed because you're all in the same sporting club. You're all in the same cheerleading group. You're all in the same band together. And then you form these likes, these friendships. The idea that you take that same sort of affinity. I like people typically who fit two criteria. One, they like me. And two, they are similar to me. They are like me in their traits and sense of humor and personality. So typically the ideal person that I claim I like is someone who likes me back, and who is someone that is similar to me. Or sometimes, especially when you're younger, you think you like someone who you perceive to be what you wish you were, if that makes sense. So someone might see someone and think, oh, wow, he's so great at this position on the baseball team, and I'm not that talented, but I sure like him. And part of it is that person sort of idealizes that baseball skill and thinks, oh, I like them. And you aspire to be that person, or that's who you want to be, or that's who you wish you were. These types of, I would argue, usually unhealthy types of perceptions, right? We should like who we are. The core to dealing with difficult people is beginning to understand that the expectation at work as adults that we're all going to like each other, quote unquote, and be friends is just absolutely inaccurate. Should we be friendly? Meaning that depending on the culture, where you are in the world, you treat each other as the norms dictate, yeah. So if you're in a part of the world where people typically expect that someone would make eye contact and say a verbal greeting, how are you, howdy, then you do that. That's friendly. If you're in a part of the world where you do not make eye contact because it's rude and you don't normally say anything verbally, but maybe you have a physical gesture that you'll make as someone enters a room, then you'll make that gesture. This isn't difficult. You just follow the norm. That's friendly in a generic sense. It doesn't mean we're personal best friends. The challenge is this. I like people who are the most similar to myself. The challenge at work is, ideally, in most parts of the world, if not all of them, it's illegal for a decision to be made to hire people just because they're similar to you. Because that's going to mean that you're going to try to pick people similar in age and similar in religion and similar in gender and similar in ethnic background. And all of a sudden now, in most parts of the world, that's totally illegal because it leads to, of course, the problem that people who already have the ability to hire people pick people like themselves, which excludes massive numbers of people in society from getting opportunity to work. That hurts society in general because if people can't work, they can't pay taxes, they can't contribute, they can't be a part of all of the exciting and wonderful things that society has to offer. They don't have the ability typically for economic or social mobility. And in most parts of the world, it's totally illegal to go and make decisions that I'm going to go bring people to work around me who are similar to me because that's illegal and it limits the pool of workers only to people who match the qualities of people that already are employed and have powerful positions. This is, I think, the genesis for a lot of this difficult people. How do I deal with them? you have to hire people for their ability to do the job. Are you qualified to perform the essential functions of the job? And in the U.S. and in many countries, you add with or without accommodation. And that's just a legal way of saying, hey, can you do the job? What's the job? It's all the documentation on the job description and position description and the handbook that describes what the job is. Can you do these things with or without accommodation is a way of expressing that some people may have a physical, mental, psychological disability or condition that they need an accommodation to be able to do the job, and with the accommodation, they are able to work and meet all of the requirements. The key is, are you qualified? Can you do the job? So if the job is being a customer service agent and answering phone calls and using an online software system to log in, data from the call and resolve it in a way that meets the needs of the organization, and someone shows, yes, I've had 5 years of experience in call centers, and here's I had a very high evaluations, I had a very high rate of satisfaction from people that I helped on the phone, and I am in a wheelchair due to a physical condition, and I just need to have a wide enough area for my wheelchair to enter into the building on a wheelchair ramp, and then I just need to have an area where I sit in my workstation that will accommodate my wheelchair. That's the accommodation I need. With that, of course, I'm totally qualified and I can do the job. What am I saying? The base foundation for a management magician is I'm hiring people to do the job. If you do this, you're going to alleviate 80% of these perceived difficult people problems, because you're not going out and looking for people to be friends with. You're not looking for people that you would want to go golfing with or fishing or go to your ballet class or your knitting group or whatever it is you do for fun. This is not your group. These are two different parts of your life. You're hiring people at work not to be your new best friend, not to meet your emotional needs or psychological needs, not to make you less lonely. You're hiring people to do the work. What's the work? Whatever the job description is. I heard a very disturbing anecdote, and I've seen some data on this that I just have to mention because it, to me, is so unbelievably shocking in some ways. That in some organizations, especially smaller organizations, you have somebody in a leadership position, maybe even a CEO of a very small organization or president, who literally goes to their team members, all of the people, and says on social media, I want you to make me your friend, to show that you like me on social media. Not an internal organizational, walled off internet, but the real World Wide Web. They go and either actually send out requests for people. Hey, I'm your president or CEO of your employer. Will you go ahead and agree to be my friend on this World Wide Web social media that has nothing to do with our work? Wow. Because, of course, that puts the employee in a horrible choice, because you can't say no. I mean, you could. If you say, I'm not going to agree to be your friend, accept your request to be my friend on this social media that has nothing to do with the job, then the backlash, of course, is you've rejected, your CEO or president. And if they've asked you, the thing that upsets me and that's shocking is, who does this? Who confuses your work endeavors, which have all these rules, right, where it's illegal. You don't pick somebody just because they're similar religion or similar age, or they have the same hobby of, crochet that you do, and that you do all these things based on the ability to do the work. You set all this up so that you can allow people to get out there, make a living, accomplish and surpass their own individual and family goals, and live their dreams. And then you have a whole separate non-work-related world where it's totally based on if somebody likes you or you like them. In your free time, in your regular life, you're going to go hang out with someone or make a new social friend. It's totally 100%. Do you like them? Are they funny? Do they get your... Go to my office, people who are going to HR with some kind of problem, the people who I hear complaints about from my customers, or the people that I hear praise, right? It can go the other way, where you just get a ton of attention because somebody's really good at, trumpeting their own success, which they should be. And the manager ignores the people who don't make any waves, positive or negative. That's horrible management, because those people can seethe, feeling ignored and disrespected for a really long time, and it's incredibly unhealthy. They can sabotage things and goals. They can become passive aggressive. I mean, it's just really poor. It's, I used to use this analogy when I did corporate training, just nonstop. Some years where I was traveling 200 days a year, up to 300 days a year, just travel every day, all day, on site, trying to help organizations. And I talk about the ideal of an ideal family, so you have some sort of parent or caregiver, who is an adult, and then you have their minor people that they take care of, whether they're biological children or other minors that they take care of. And if you have a quiet, minor, let's say there's 5 minors, and one of them's quiet. Well, we all understand at a very basic level that an excellent parenting and leadership, you don't ignore the quiet child and they say, well, they don't need any attention. I'm not gonna give them equal amounts of time and energy and everything because they're quiet. They seem like they're fine. No, it's horrible. Maybe they're just more introverted. Maybe they're shy. Maybe that's just their personality. But to ignore them, and lavish your time and attention on the other minors, we all know how horrible that is, right? We all can immediately, viscerally, either in our own experience or we've known someone or we've read something or heard something, and we just know that that's painful, right? Ideally, the adult caregiver is supposed to be there with this fair, roughly equal time, that you're all important equally. That's the ideal. Same thing at work. So silence doesn't equal happiness. It just means you don't know what it means, actually. And if you invest roughly equal amounts of time in each of your team members, talking to them, listening to them, reaching out to them, letting them know that they're important, then you're going to get roughly a feeling of justice and respect. And that'll do a lot to mitigate this alleged difficult person. Also, there's this idea that if someone is doing their job, then they should be able to do kind of whatever they want. And I see this a lot in sales. I see it a lot in some, certain industries where people say, hey, look, this is all about the dollars. And if somebody is a huge, success at this, they sell the most, they bring in the most, contracts, they close the most new accounts. Yeah, maybe they're, rude to other people. Maybe they, say, insults or harass coworkers, but their results are amazing, right? No, their results aren't amazing. And the problem when you do that is you're again, the job is the totality of the job. So it's part of it is the sales and the numbers. But the other part of it is, are they driving away and creating higher costs in your employee turnover, right? How about, the lack of efficiency, just because other people are going to put less into their job and do it slower because they hate this guy who's a jerk or this woman who's such a mean person and says all these horrible things. But this argument, that they produce. Well, no, they're not. They do produce on one metric, and you can show me that. And that's where someone who's not a management magician, they focus so much. Well, look at their numbers. You're showing me one measurement. Talk to me about how they impact other people. Talk to me about the turnover you have. Talk to me about the people that come in and out of that unit or that department. There are other costs. You have to holistically approach this. And it's the same thing, again, with my old fallback analogy, right? So you have the minors, and then you have the adult caregiver. The adult caregiver may be a parent, maybe not. It doesn't matter. The adult caregiver, people say, wow, that adult caregiver, those children, they look so nice. They always have such nice outfits, and they just are the best-looking children. Okay, that's, we can measure that. They do, quote, look nice. They have their clothes are fashionable, and they look wonderful. But that adult caregiver, though, yells at them, physically hits them, I mean, we can't ignore that, right? You have to look at the whole thing. You just can't look at one little tiny sliver of data and say, well, that's enough for me to just accept, the rest of the behavior that might be negative. No, it isn't. You have to look at the whole picture. So this idea that, hey, somebody's such a great producer, let them be their unique self, let them be funny, or, maybe they're tough. No. You have to treat other people the way they want to be treated. You have to treat other people the way they want to be treated. The management position understands a couple of things. I'm going to set up my framework, just like building like a building or a house, right? I'm going to have the best floor plan. I'm going to have the best building plans. I'm going to use the strongest materials, and I'm going to make it as sturdy and powerful and well built as I can. And then that will give me a lot of preventative power to handle whatever comes along. So I built it the best I can. Oh my goodness, there's a horrible weather event. It's okay, my building is standing because I built it well, right? That's what we're doing. That's what all of this is. understanding that you're not getting your unmet emotional or social needs at work. Those are totally separate. You're having that typical adult caregiver in the minor children where you're fair. Everybody perceives you to the best of their ability as pretty fair, that you don't love one more than the other, that you understand that people are judged the totality of their work, not just one aspect of it. So if they treat people awful, if they create a lot of turnover problems, you can't ignore that without understanding that you've created dysfunction and you've created a poorly managed group. What happens if you've built this fantastic foundation, right? So the manager has their own personal, separate social life where they get to socialize and social media and do whatever fun stuff off the clock, and their needs are met, right? With all of that is not related. So by the time they get to work, they're not confusing any of these, unmet needs, and they come into the door ready to manage. This is part of the most important thing about managing difficult people. I come to work ready to manage. I've taken care of all my emotional, psychological, physical needs. Here I am. Let's go. Let's manage. So it's easy for me now to be impartial, to ensure that I'm allocating my time roughly, efficiently, and equally to my team members. And, I've built this fantastic foundation. I'm doing what I need to. I'm, showing my excellent communication, my wonderful listening skills. But there's a difficult person. There's somebody throwing temper tantrums. There's somebody who nonstop complains. There's somebody who's filed 74, work complaints in 2 weeks, which is, more than the whole unit filed in a decade. I have a legitimately difficult person, okay? They are out there and they exist. What do you do when you absolutely run into one? They're recalcitrant. They are only obstacle. Their only goal in life is to create obstacles to getting stuff done. They come to work only to spread, maintain, and waste time. Their whole orientation to the world is that it's all about them and their pain and their insecurities. Some of them may literally be mentally, ill or have some sort of a personality condition. As a sociopath or a psychopath. I'm not kidding. I mean, they exist. When you really have one and you've done your self-assessment and you've made sure it's not me, nope, my foundation's fine, no, I'm not met needs, I'm not confusing anything, I'm implementing my consistency, confidentiality, and compliance, which are my tools for management. And there's really one here who's just, their entire focus is to destroy the department. They go. Where do they go? You don't really care. Not to be mean, but they're going to not work in that area around you and around your people. Now, they might be transferred somewhere else if the organization decides it's what they want. They might need to leave that industry, that company. They might need to leave that part of the world. You don't really know or have control over that. Document what they're doing, progressive discipline as quickly as you can, and get them out of there. They need to go now. You can't convert them. Make them leave quickly. Thank you.